All right. So I want to welcome all of you to this broadcast here. I call it COVID-19 Conqueror News. So, because we are conquering this in the name of Jesus. So we'll more than see this every week, possibly every week. We'll keep up with the community, let them know what's going on out there in the neck of the woods, and some familiar faces. And right now we got two anointed, powerful boss ladies. Amen. They are moving and shaking things in the kingdom of God in their own perspective, in their own professions. And so they're going to come on here and they're going to share some good things for you to know. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And I'm going to start off with Minister Estella Beavers. Just give me a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do for us.
All right. Well, my name is Estella Beavers. I am a registered nurse, and I have been a nurse now for 17 years. Currently, right now, I'm working as a clinical liaison, so I spend part of my time working with rehab centers and also out in the community.
Wow. Really in depth. So, no doubt. First of all, we commend your steadfastness and your love for service for people over the past 17 years. I mean, not just what's going on today, but the past 17 years. I think that is something worth to give honor about. So God bless you for that. And as well, we have prophetess Ruth Moffitt. Let us know who you are and what you do and so forth.
All right. So my name is Ruth Moffitt, and I am the director with United Way's 211 First Call for Help. Now, 211 is all about connecting people to community resources, whatever that resource may be. But I also serve as the disaster liaison. So what that means is I travel, if there's a statewide disaster, I travel to Clanton, Alabama, which is the home of our state EMA, or I work between Calhoun County EMA and Etowah County EMA to facilitate whatever, it just depends on what the disaster is as to what needs to be facilitated. We may stand up a volunteer reception center, or we may stand up, we're getting ready to stand up a joint information center at Calhoun County EMA beginning tomorrow. So it just depends on what the disaster is and what's needed. I serve in the communication sector in human services down at the state. So at the time that disaster comes upon us, then we're activated to some level. And then I serve accordingly.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, we got some powerful people. They are who they are, where they are, what they are, and I'm at where I am. That's why you have to respect what people are and what they know and what they bring to the table. And you cannot be the smartest person in the room. If not, the circle don't get too small for you. So I really thank God for you all being part of the circle, part of my circle. I'm part of your circle. It's an honor and a blessing. So I really thank God for that. So let's get down to it.
Yes.
We are in a pandemic.
Yes.
No doubt about it. It's a lot of information going on. It's a lot of different, because, everyone knows something about everything. But it's so important to know, to have the correct information, and we can spend like almost 2 hours on this, but like I said earlier, I won't be respectful because all of us are preachers. That's the first thing.
So true.
I won't be mindful of that. So I'll go to Estella. What is it like, if you will, being on the front line?
Well, it's very interesting because I'm used to working in disaster situations where it's like a natural disaster. This has been quite different for healthcare workers because what we're seeing is that we are having a shortage of what's called PPE, or personal protective equipment. We're used to being, fully guarded up. And right now we're running low on masks, gloves, hand sanitizers, isolation gloves, and we're really at the highest risk out of any other sector in the world. So it's
Wow.
very different for us
Yeah.
working on another level of really trying to be good stewards of the supplies we do have. So
Yeah, I just heard, and you correct me from what I heard was correct, but this is one of the reasons why they instructing people, unless you have some of the symptoms, then wear a mask. But if not, then don't necessarily wear the mask, because you actually taking away for some of the supplies that is needed.
and that is very true. That does put a damper on the amount of supplies that we have. But the second part to that is that people are walking around with the paper mask, and it really doesn't protect you.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why you should wear it is if you do have a cough or a sneeze, and it helps protects others from getting your germs, but not necessarily protecting you. So really, when you see us wearing the mask, we're attempting to protect our patients, not necessarily for our own protection. So that's the misinformation that people have.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to really truly protect against that is to have what's called an N95 mask, which has a seal and a fit, and you must be fitted for that. That would not be available to the open public.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I got kind of an idea from the military, because we have to don, we would go through the gas chamber and stuff like that. You have to don the mask so nothing would seep inside of it. So very it's so very interesting, because it's not just in America, but I have heard the same report in other different countries. They run short on medical supplies. So what are you seeing that we are not seeing?
Well, some of the things that that I'm seeing is they are trying to be very stringent with who they're testing. And also, another thing that I'm seeing is, hospitals have a certain amount of what we call ventilators or breathing machines. And so a lot of patients who get really, really sick with the COVID-19 may end up needing ventilators. Thank goodness we're not to that point yet in the state of Alabama, but we are starting to see hospitals across the country at that brink. So what we're going to start to become worried about is, are we going to have enough ventilators to try to support those patients who are the sickest and need them the most? And so we might see coming very soon some very difficult decisions being made as far as who will receive what type of care.
Wow. And you hear that being discussed in other countries now already. The severity of the cases and the amount of death, and this overwhelming the hospital ERs, and it's just an incredible thing. It's so unprecedented.
Yes.
With that being said, let me segue to Ruth. Let me know the same thing. What is it like being on the front line, and what are you seeing that we are not seeing?
So interestingly, I never, when we switch over to disaster mode, or when I switch over and have to serve in disaster, I never see myself as being on the front line. I just simply go and do. I just instinctively, when I know that there is, as Minister Estella said, we think about natural disasters. So forecast, if there's a forecast of bad weather, I'm already, halfway out the door, like, just in case. I know what I need to have, and I already have in my mind some things that we need to do, because disseminating information is so critical. Disaster is fluid, and oftentimes people don't understand that. And so that means that at one moment, it may be one thing, and 10 minutes later, we may have to shift to a whole different protocol, which is something Minister Estella just spoke about. Right now, we're okay with ventilators, but what happens if we get to that point where we have to make critical decisions? Now, what is the procedure for that? So being on the front lines of disaster, I think when you're created for it, when you are made for it, you know, in our mother's womb, God created us and fashioned us in this, so that when we have to move forward in disaster, we just do it instinctively.
Right.
And I think that, you know, in our different fields, we begin to think about what's needed for this particular disaster. So one of the things that we see on the front lines, even from the very beginning, was this panic that set in place. You know, people calling and, you know, really inundating the lines, the phone lines with, you know, I have a sneeze, and so I think I have it. Where can I go be tested? And so one of the things that we tried to do to alleviate some of that burden off of our local hospitals and off of ADPH was to say, okay, tell us your symptoms. ADPH provided for us a script, and we could look at that script, and it said, okay, if this person is running a fever, if they have a cough, if they have this pain in the chest, if they have the bluishness in the face, in the lips or in the face. So we will begin to calm their fears by saying, okay, so, you know, you have a cough, and it may be synonymous with allergies, because this is allergy season. Have you connected with Teladoc to where you can see a doctor face to face, and that way you don't go and now possibly expose yourself because you're going to be tested just because you're frightened. So we use some of that to try to alleviate some of that off of some of the health care. And so that's some of the things that people would call in and say, I'm pretty sure I have it. I know they're not telling people. I know people have been tested, and we already have cases, you know, in various locations. And we would say, no, there are no confirmed cases there. There is testing going on, you know, and we would kind of try to alleviate some of that through disseminating proper messaging to the public. Messaging is so important.
Critical.
Because if you don't have that messaging, it turns to people making their own conclusions.
Yes.
And so disseminating that.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I think that's running rapid across the nation, is that we you know, I have heard so many different conversations, and I'm gonna turn to you, Minister Estella, that people say that, you know, I think I had the coronavirus, you know, November, but I just got over it. You know, and they referring to the COVID-19, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I told them, I said, you know, we all had the coronavirus at you know, a certain level, that the cold or the flu, you know, but this is a different strand.
Yeah,
This is not the same thing. This is, you know, and then people, like you just mentioned, Ruth, that the anxiety come in. A lot of people don't realize anxiety has an effect on your body.
That's right.
And on your breathing. It alone can cause you to become short of breath. Yeah.
So give me the difference between the coronavirus that probably was discovered in the 60s, and a different level, because you have the SARS, the MERS. You know, so this give us the difference between the flu, the cold, and the COVID-19. This gives a little spill on that.
Okay, so here's the lowdown. Viruses belong to a particular family, and the coronavirus is a family of viruses. So coronavirus has been around for a long time, causing cold and flu. Usually you get it, you don't even know you had it, you get over it. The thing about this COVID-19, it is called a novel virus. Novel in this case does not mean new in the sense that it's brand new, but it's novel because of the mode of transmission, how it is transferred from being to being. COVID-19 started out as a virus only seen in animals. Then over a long period of time, that virus was then spread from an animal to a human. Don't know when that happened, but when it did happen, it took another period of time before it then could be transferred from human to human without the presence of an animal vector or carrier. That's when it became known as a novel virus, because now it has gone from just infecting animals to animal, animal to human, human to human. So it mutated over a period of time. Now, the good thing about COVID-19 is that it is a slow mutating virus, which is something that was discovered and put in the news today, which is promising to be able to, get a vaccine against it. But now here's the difference between a cold, a flu, and the COVID-19 coronavirus. A cold is something that happens, it's a slow moving. It might take you 3 days. You start with a little tickle in your throat, a little cough, a sneeze, runny nose, runny eyes. And then by about the 5th, 6th, 7th day, you're over it, you're fine. You may or may not run a fever with it. With the flu is more sudden onset. You may wake up feeling fine that morning. By that night, you're running a fever, body aches, chills. You may have a stuffy nose, sore throat, cough. You usually don't sneeze with the flu. It's a fast-moving virus, which is why we have to get a vaccine, or most people choose to get a vaccine every year, because it mutates fast. It hits you fast. Usually, if you're healthy, you get over it. Coronavirus is more along the lines of the cold, where it's slow moving, but you usually have the fever, the sore throat, and the cough. And this cough is not like any other cough you have ever experienced. This is a type of coughing that is uncontrollable and can take your breath away. It makes you very fatigued, very tired, and people have varying degrees of it, where you can have someone that has it and show no symptoms, all the way up to a person who may have it and become short of breath, develop pneumonia with it, and then they need to be on a respirator or ventilator to support their breathing. Now, that can happen with flu as well, but usually we see that happening in what we call immunocompromised, the very young, the very old. What we're seeing with COVID is that we thought that it would just affect the very elderly. Now we're beginning to see that it's affecting young people as well.
Well, see, that go back to what was said earlier, Ruth, that information is critical.
Yes.
And we have noticed some have downplayed this. We have literally seen this. We have seen people, they didn't take it as serious.
Right.
And they continue on not abiding by the different rules to remain healthy and keep other people healthy. So what are some of the things that your organization, the agency, can share with the people so that we won't take it to that next level, in severity? Because, what instead of just share with us, this is some serious stuff.
Right. And so we are echoing what health officials are saying, which is, talking about self-quarantining. And, we receive some calls from individuals that say, hey, I was around I found out today that someone that I would work with or, travel with or whatever has been diagnosed. And now I'm unsure what I need to do. I work for an apartment complex. What should I do? So then we pull up that script that we have from ADPH and we say, hey, according to ADPH, you need to self-quarantine. And this is what it means to self-quarantine. Take this thing seriously, because as Estella said, you could have no symptoms yet be a carrier. And really and truly, we should all function as if we were a potential carrier.
Right.
Of this COVID-19. So that means that even at my workplace, I'm still working. As I said, we're doing a training tomorrow, but that number that'll be in that training center will be 8 people, and we will be, we'll have that 6 feet distance between us. We will wipe down countertops. When I get in my car to go somewhere, I have a thing of Lysol in my car. I wipe my hands. I wipe my steering wheel down. When I get out of my car, I wipe again. When I get home from work, I take my clothes off. I throw them in the washing machine. That doesn't
immediately.
mean that I'm a person without faith. That just means
Mhm.
I'm following the protocols and the information that's been given to us by ADPH, which is what we ask people to do and talk to people about doing on the phone. Our elderly population that call in, we try to find someone through our VOAD, which is Volunteer Organization Active in Disaster, VOAD. We try to connect and have meals, food delivered for those elderly people that maybe rode the trolley to get groceries and things like that. Understanding that some of them may have compromised immune systems, and so they would be more prone to be affected from this. So really sharing with people that it's not business as usual, but
Right.
we've had to make some adjustments in this, and we're okay with making those adjustments. So we're trying to make people aware that it is wise to follow these recommendations that healthcare has given down to us.
Estella, you mentioned earlier, the symptoms and the severity of it. And I was just listening to Joel Osteen. He's a pastor, I think, in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
And another pastor called in, of course, and he he was traveling from out of state, and he was around someone who had it. And at first, he didn't show any symptoms, and he went got checked because he wasn't around somebody who positive who had it. And then they say he was cleared. Then 2-3 days later, he had a little tickle. And then one symptom led to another symptom. Then he went back. They said, "Oh, well, you do have it." I went to the primary care.
Right.
I didn't, but he did. And, he said the severity, like he was almost being drowned.
Right.
And so forth. But they did give him certain whatever prescription. Then he said he went to, not he didn't, but someone went on his behalf, of course, to get something so he can be able to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And over a period of time, I guess because he had no pre-existing conditions and so forth, he was one of the blessed ones that came out of the other side. He strong, speaking very strong and so forth and everything, healed and gave a testimony. But what can you suggest? If someone believes they have it,
Mm-hmm.
and they show all of the symptoms, give me the 1, 2, 3 steps for them.
The first thing they will want to do is call their physician. Don't go to the office. Don't even go to the ER. Call your doctor first. Talk to them. They will go through a screening. Like Prophetess Ruth said, pretty much all over the country, we are following the same script. It's basically the same screening. They will go through that screening with you. If they have determined that you need to be tested, your doctor's office will then direct you to a site where you need to be tested. And that might be different from county to county. I know in some places they have drive-through testing even, where you can just drive through and get tested, and then they will call you with your test results.
Mm-hmm.
If you are experiencing shortness of breath or your symptoms are uncontrollable, then that's when you need to call 911 and go to the ER. Anytime you're experiencing that shortness of breath and you can't feel like you can't catch your breath, that's when you need to go to the ER. Listen, nothing is a death sentence for anybody. The best thing I can tell you is number 3, do not panic. Mm-hmm. There is a course of action for you no matter what stage you are in. Do not panic. So call your doctor. Let your doctor direct you to where you need to go for testing. In the meantime, while you're waiting on your test results, you must self-quarantine. Try to eliminate your contact with other people as much as possible, not just for your protection, but for their protection as well. And if you're having that shortness of breath, please go to the ER.
I tell you what, I wish I had, because these are busy ladies. I'm just going to say that. These are busy ladies. They already told me that, what they got to do early in the morning, and they spent late time. They asked, well, was on my broadcast earlier for Bible training, and I so much appreciate that. But we may have to even do another day and go into more depth and so forth. But I so much appreciate both of you ladies, not only for tonight, but what you have been doing, what you have been given to just in service to people all over in your area. And we're gonna continue to pray and believe that God will continue to cover you too and your family. And you are covered. Praise God.
Praise God.
Blood of the Lamb of God. And we praise God for both of y'all.
Amen.
And we're gonna continue to pray for the nation.
Yes.
Our nation. I was watching something that you put out there earlier, Ruth, is how we was like maybe third or fourth from the bottom of all the major nations that had high cases, and we were third or fourth from the bottom. And then maybe a little bit more than a month time, we rose from 34th from the bottom all the way up to about second or third,
right?
Of all the nations. And it's incredible. It's incredible. It's something that we don't need to take lightly. And trust me, of all people who got faith, not only the wonderful, powerful ladies got faith, I assure you, I have faith. I have seen miracles. We have seen miracles.
That's
literally
right.
We have.
in our ministry. We have seen.
Yes, we have.
We have seen deaf ears open in the middle of praise and worship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had testimony of people saying they've been healed of cancer.
Yes.
You know, but all this is the Lord's doing. Man cannot heal nobody. You know, this is the Lord's doing. The Lord is the only one that can heal people.
Right.
But we have faith. But we also have common sense. The Bible says have a sound mind.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
That means common sense and science.
That's
Bible says
right.
add to your faith knowledge.
Yes.
You know, and so there's a balance there, and we need to be considerate on the times that we are in. So I thank you, lady, once again.
Thank you.
Pray that you have a blessed, wonderful night, and I thank you all for tuning in out there as well. So look for our next broadcast, COVID-19 Conqueror News. Amen. God bless y'all.